Build Show friends, we got another Building on an Island episode, episode 6. Framing is complete, we're getting into mechanicals. We've got plumbing, electrical, and HVAC starting. And we also have a little bit of exterior framing. We've got some decks going on this job. This is a great episode with lots of good learning from Wade on this really critical topic. So guys, if you're not familiar with this series, we're publishing every 3 weeks here on YouTube on a Wednesday, but then we're ahead on buildshownetwork.com. So if you want to go over to our website and see that, you can get there. Basically, my buddy Wade is chronicling the entire build start to finish of this very difficult project. He's building on Block Island, which is off the coast of Rhode Island. Wade and his team are up to the task though. WKP Construction, man, this is a top-notch builder. And Wade's been doing it even longer than I have, believe it or not. Fantastic builder. You gotta check this out, guys. Episode 6, Building on an Island. Let's get going.
Welcome back to Building on an Island. I'm Wade Paquin. I'm out on the project site today as the crew has been making tremendous progress here on the build. Our framing is complete, our decks are now built, our exterior window trim is on, and we're in that exciting phase of transitioning into mechanical, plumbing, and electrical rough-ins. Join me today as I walk the job site for an update.
The Building on an Island series is sponsored by Anderson Windows and Doors, the Unico System, Key Link Fencing and Railing, and Legend.
So we have 4 decks here on this home. We have 2 smaller decks here on the west side, 2 larger decks here on the north side. And if you remember, we've got a reverse layout here, right? What that means is our living space is on the top floor, our bedrooms are on the first floor. And the sole reason for that is because of the views. We're on an island, we've got spectacular views of the ocean, nearly 270-degree views of the water. So that upper deck is right off the kitchen. The deck below it is off a bedroom. And over here, the upper deck is off the living room. So we've got a good sized slider door panel there. When that door opens up, that's going to connect that outdoor living space to the indoor living space. And because all these decks, or at least the upper ones, are getting a rubber membrane, essentially creating a roof above the deck below it, that means that when the homeowner wants to sit on one of these lower decks in some foul weather, a rain or a thunderstorm, they can sit out there comfortably without getting wet. Now you might notice here we've got this retaining wall, and the reason for the retaining wall is because we've got a significant grade change here. We've got about 8 feet in elevation change from the high point up there down to this low point. So in order to hold back the grade and to create a way to support this end of the deck, the architect and engineer decided to put a retaining wall in here. And instead of just having one big wall, we decided to tier it, meaning we've got a lower wall here that's going to create a planting bed, and that will be part of the larger landscape finished plan here as we get further into the project. But all of this will get stone veneered, so you're not going to see any concrete. This will all get a nice natural stone veneer on both the lower and upper wall, and that veneer is actually going to carry around the lower portion of the house here on this ground level. So one of the details here is to kick the sidewall shingles out over what will be the stone veneer. So we've got these blocks here that receive some plywood that will get transitioned back into the original zip system. So when we apply our cedar sidewall shakes, those shakes are going to come down the zip system over this new piece of plywood and flare out, right? That's going to kick the sidewall shingles out over the stone veneer. This will have a little trim detail here. The shingles come down, overhang that, and then our stone veneer. Now that detail is going to carry right around this horizontal banding detail of the flare right around the whole lower level of the house until it transitions back into the higher grade. And then all the stone veneer as well. So a nice little detail here on the ground level. The exterior window trim on this project is nearly complete. We've got a few windows left to do. You can see we've got this nice white product here. This is actually a PVC product. This is by Versatech. We are not painting it. We're using the Cortex hidden fastener system. So it's got these little plugs, these bungs that go in over the screws here. And the reason we chose Versatech and the reason that we're not painting it is, again, we're on an island. This is a very harsh environment, and we want to choose products here on the exterior. They're going to be durable, give us longevity, and provide low maintenance, right? There's no such thing as no maintenance, but we want to be able to provide as little maintenance as possible, and this is one way to achieve that. Basically, other than cleaning this product every once in a while, you won't have any problems with this for a very long time. Now, one thing we've been doing to kind of stay on schedule and keep this pace going is by taking advantage of the rain days. This has been a very wet, rainy, stormy fall, but our project manager, Dan, has done a great job with finding things for the crew to do on those kind of off days. And one of those things is pre-cutting and pre-assembling this entire window trim package detail. So all of these 4 pieces are cut individually and then pre-assembled on the workbench down in the basement. I've got a little sample here of the window. So here's your exterior. You've got your head casing, your side casing, and your historic sill. You can see we've used a thicker material at the top to give a little reveal here. And we're pocket screwing or cragging all these components in together. So you can see the pocket screws here. These go in, this gets a glue connection and then screwed. And we've got a really nice mechanically fastened window trim detail here. And we can make all of these and then come out when the weather breaks and simply pop them over the window, face screw them in, plug them with those Cortex screws, and it's done. Move on to the next window. So very fast and efficient process. I'm on the 2nd floor now. So again, this is the top floor with those ocean views. I've got the living room or future living room off to my right. The dining room will be here in front of me. And as I said, we're in that phase of transitioning from framing to rough-in, and rough-in means we need to start thinking about finishes. So we're having a lot of conversations, a lot of meetings on site with our trade contractors, our electrician, our plumber, our HVAC subs, coordinating the work with each other. There's a sequence to this, there's a schedule to this, and we need to think through it instead of jumping the gun and doing something that might conflict with something else. For instance, a bathroom has a specific location. It has a waste pipe coming out of that bathroom, and that waste pipe has to get down to the basement and connect to our sewer line. Waste pipe doesn't have a lot of flexibility to it, so we want to make sure our waste pipe goes in first before, say, a light fixture or a supply or return duct, so they don't conflict with each other, and then we have to move something later. Those are the type of things we're trying to avoid now. And frankly, this top floor is not the easiest floor in terms of supplying cool and warm air to this space on the HVAC side. We have a vaulted dining and living room here. Right now, technically a vaulted kitchen as well. And we only have one attic up here on the 2nd floor, and that's over this wing here. So we've cut in our access hatch over there. We've got some space up there to put our HVAC equipment. But how do we get that air from that attic space and where that equipment is, say, over to the kitchen here, where we've got a good-sized kitchen with, guess what, another vaulted ceiling detail in here. We don't have a pathway to bring the ductwork into this space right now. This whole 2nd floor, living, dining, kitchen, right now is all vaulted. Now, what we've come up with, and we've offered to the client, and I think it's a great idea, is to lower the ceiling in here, create a coffered ceiling detail, and that's going to give us some space above the coffered ceiling, almost like another attic space, where we can now, between this wall partition and the height of the ceiling, we have a little area over here where we can bring our ductwork from that attic space where the equipment is over here to above the coffered ceiling and be able to run our supply duct up here above the coffer so we can have a ceiling fed air supply here in the kitchen. And then on this partition wall here, you can see we've got a nice high doorway header. This will be a cased opening. And above that header and in that wall, we'll be installing some very sleek slot supplies. There's going to be 8 very thin linear slots integrated into that wall, so flush with the plaster, and that's going to condition this dining room and living room space. And with the ceiling supplies here in the coffers, and those will probably be strategically placed on the beams of the coffer, now we have all of this space accounted for in terms of conditioning the space. So great problem solving here for what was initially a pretty tricky challenge. So earlier I mentioned these decks on this build are going to be getting a rubber membrane. Now what that rubber membrane is essentially doing is waterproofing this floor of the deck so the deck below it can stay dry. Now how do we do that? You can see here, this looks like a plywood floor that you might see on the interior of the house. Pressure treated plywood, consistent with pressure treated deck joists, again because we're outside, galvanized nails, and this whole floor is already pitched away from the house and out to the front edge of the deck. Now the reason for that is once we apply our rubber membrane over this floor system here, any water that gets through the decking boards and onto that membrane is going to drain positively out to the front edge of the deck, get collected by a gutter, and then get that water away from the house. Now behind me we've got a wall being framed up on the end of the deck, so two knee walls, if you will, on either end of the deck. That still needs to get sheathing, and that will get sidewall shingled, same shingles as on the main house. And then out here on the front edge, you can see we've got our 6x6 newels in place. These things are locked into the framing, super stiff and sturdy. These will get trimmed out, and then we'll be installing a cable rail system here between these newels. So when sitting on the deck, you're not having any obstructions with your view of looking out here to the ocean and the harbor here in front of me. Well, considering we're still in a pandemic, we've got supply chain issues, material delays, material shortages, all of that said, plus the fact that we're working on an island, I've got to say, I'm really proud of my project manager, Dan, and my entire team of subcontractors and tradesmen for keeping this project on schedule through a really difficult time. Next episode, we're going to be talking specifics about HVAC. What type of equipment, why we're using it, what its benefits are, and why it's a good fit for this specific project. Until we're back on island, I'm Wade Paquin with Building on an Island.